For 13 years, I lived in the shadows of my son's house. I wasn't his father anymore, I was just a servant, someone who did the work no one else wanted to do. I cooked his meals, cleaned his house, and took care of his kids. He treated me like I was invisible, a mere fixture in the background of his life. There were no thank yous, no appreciation, just orders. He would tell me when to sweep, when to wash the dishes, when to cook dinner. Sometimes, it felt as if I wasn't even a human being. Before we continue, please comment where you are watching from and subscribe so you can hear more stories like this. I wasn't always like this. There was a time when I was proud, when I stood tall and made my own decisions. But life had taken a hard turn, and now I was trapped in my son's house, performing menial tasks like a servant. Every day, I would wake up at the crack of dawn and get to work. My son never seemed to notice. I would hear him complain about his own struggles, but it never occurred to him that I had sacrificed everything for him. He was so caught up in his own world that he couldn't even be bothered to thank me for the sacrifices I made. Instead, he treated me like a burden. I often wondered how things had gone so wrong between us. Was it my fault? Did I raise him wrong? The questions lingered in my mind, but there was no one to answer them. But I never complained. I believed that family was about sacrifice, and I thought one day he would realize all that I had done for him. Yet, as the years passed, I began to feel like a ghost in my own son's life. The love that once existed between us seemed to fade, and in its place was indifference. It hurt, but I swallowed my pain. I stayed because I had nowhere else to go. Then, everything changed in the most unexpected way. One evening, as I was cleaning the kitchen, I overheard my son talking excitedly to his wife. "You won't believe it," he said. "They're doing the lottery drawing on TV tonight. Can you imagine what it would be like if we won?" My heart skipped a beat. I had been secretly playing the lottery for years, hoping for a chance to change my life. But no one knew about it, not even my son. I had never shared my hopes with anyone. It felt like a foolish dream, something to keep my mind occupied during the long, lonely days. That night, after I finished my chores, I sat down to watch the drawing. My hands shook as I held the ticket, waiting for the numbers to be announced. When the final number was revealed, I couldn't believe it. It was the exact combination on my ticket, $12 million. My heart pounded in my chest. I had won. For a moment, I was paralyzed. I felt like the world had stopped spinning. My mind raced as I tried to process what had just happened. $12 million, it was more money than I could ever imagine. It could change everything. But there was one problem. I was still just a servant in my son's house. How could I tell him? How would he react when he found out? I didn't say a word to anyone that night. I didn't even let my son know about the money. I knew I had to keep it a secret for now. There was so much to think about, so much to plan. I couldn't just blurt it out. What if he didn't believe me? What if he thought I was lying? I had to be careful. But as the days passed, the secret weighed heavily on me. I kept the ticket hidden in a safe place, and every time I looked at it, I felt a strange mix of excitement and dread. I had the power to change my life, to change everything. But I was also scared. What if it ruined everything between me and my son? The tension built up, and one fateful day, the truth came out in the most unexpected way. I was sitting on the couch, watching the news, when the lottery results were mentioned again. The camera zoomed in on a large jackpot winner, and there, on the screen, was my name. The announcer read out my full name, and my son's jaw dropped. That's my father," he shouted. I froze. My heart raced. I wasn't sure how to react. There, on national television, was the truth. My son saw it. He saw me as a millionaire. But how would he react now? Would he feel guilty, regretful for the way he had treated me all these years? Or would he come rushing to me with open arms, expecting a share of the winnings? The questions swirled in my mind, and before I could even process what was happening, my son was standing in front of me. His eyes were wide with disbelief. "Dad," he stammered, you're the one who won." But what happened next was the most shocking part of all. As he stood there, I saw it in his eyes, regret. The man who had once ignored me, who had treated me like a servant, now saw me as a millionaire. And that was when it hit me, the truth about everything that had happened between us. What would he do now? Would he apologize for the years of mistreatment? Or was he only interested in the money? The look on my son's face was one I would never forget. His eyes were filled with disbelief, and for the first time in 13 years, he seemed to see me. Really see me. Dad, he said again, his voice shaking. I can't believe it. You're the winner. I didn't say anything at first. The silence between us stretched on for what felt like an eternity. I didn't know what to say. For so many years, I had been invisible to him, just a servant in his house. Now, I was the millionaire, the one who had the power to change everything. But what did that really mean? He stood there for a moment, as if trying to figure out how to process this new reality. I could see the wheels turning in his mind. Would he suddenly change? Would he start to apologize for everything he had done to me? Or was he already planning how to get his hands on some of that money? I sat quietly, waiting for him to speak, but I could feel the weight of his expectations pressing on me. He finally spoke, his voice filled with desperation. Dad, I never knew. I didn't know you were playing the lottery. Why didn't you tell me? We could have done something with this money together. You know I've been struggling. I've been trying to make ends meet, and now, this. I wanted to respond, but the words felt stuck in my throat. How could he not understand? He had always had everything handed to him. His life had been easy, filled with comfort and wealth, while I had been working myself to the bone for him and his family, asking for nothing in return. And now, when I finally had something, he was coming to me with his hands outstretched, as if this was all about him. I didn't tell you, I finally said, my voice low but steady, because I didn't want you to look at me any differently. For years, I worked for you, did everything you asked, and you never once said thank you. You treated me like I was nothing more than a servant in your house. And now, you want me to share everything with you. His face fell, and I saw the guilt flicker in his eyes. But it was fleeting. It wasn't long before he was back to his old self, the entitled man who had always taken me for granted. Dad, don't be like that. We're family. You don't understand. I've been struggling. You have so much now, why not help me out? I've always been there for you. There it was, the same old story. He thought that because we were family, I owed him something. But I didn't owe him anything. I had spent my whole life sacrificing for him, doing everything he asked without a single word of thanks, and now that I had the chance to finally do something for myself, he thought I should just hand over my fortune. I'm not going to give you anything, I said, my voice growing stronger. You never cared about me before. You never appreciated the things I did for you. So don't come to me now asking for money. He seemed taken aback by my response. He had expected me to cave, to feel sorry for him. But I wasn't that man anymore. I wasn't the servant. I wasn't the person who would bend to his every demand. I had spent too many years letting him walk all over me. He didn't say anything right away, and I could see the frustration building inside him. He took a deep breath, as if trying to gather himself. Dad, I'm sorry for the way I treated you. I never meant to make you feel like you were invisible. But please, don't be like this. You have the chance to help me now. Let's make things right. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to think that his apology was sincere, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was only saying those words because he had seen the money. I had been around long enough to know that when people are after something, they will say anything to get it. You can't make things right just with words, I replied. It's too late for that. I've spent years watching you take everything for granted. Now, I'm going to take care of myself. I stood up, feeling the weight of the moment. My son was still standing there, staring at me, but this time, I didn't feel sorry for him. I didn't feel the need to fix everything. For the first time in years, I felt free. I wasn't bound by the chains of servitude, and I didn't have to answer to anyone anymore. But as I turned to walk away, I heard him call out to me. Dad, wait. I didn't mean it like that. Please, don't shut me out. We're family. For a moment, I hesitated. Was I being too harsh? Should I give him a chance? But then I remembered all those years of silence, all the times he treated me like I was nothing. The answer was clear. No, we're not family the way you think we are, I said, my voice firm. Family isn't about taking, it's about giving. And you've never given me anything. I walked away, leaving him standing there. I had made my decision. But little did I know, this would not be the last time he would come to me asking for something. And the next time, the stakes would be even higher. The days that followed were a whirlwind of emotions. I couldn't shake the feeling of finally standing up for myself. For so many years, I had been trapped in a cycle of service, of neglect, and now, for the first time, I felt the power of my own decisions. It was a strange freedom, but also one that came with its own set of challenges. My son's words continued to echo in my head. We're family. He had begged me to wait, to listen to him, but in my heart, I knew that the truth was much darker than he was willing to admit. The apology had come too late, and I wasn't about to let him manipulate me into giving him a part of the life I had just begun to rebuild. The following week, things were eerily quiet. My son didn't come to the house. He didn't call, and for once, I felt like I was the one in control. But with that control came a nagging sense of loneliness. I had spent so many years in his house, helping him with every aspect of his life, that the silence felt unnatural. It was as though I had erased myself from the picture, and now, there was no place for me to go. I couldn't shake the guilt, though. Was I being too harsh? Wasn't this my son, the same boy I had raised, the one I had sacrificed so much for? But then I reminded myself that it wasn't just about him anymore. This was about me, about taking back what I had lost over the years, the respect, the dignity, the power to make my own choices. As I sat in my small, cluttered living room, trying to make sense of it all, the doorbell rang. My heart skipped a beat. I wasn't expecting anyone, especially not after what had happened with my son. I hesitated for a moment, but then I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. There he was. "Dad," he said quietly, standing on the doorstep with a bag in his hands. "Can we talk?" My heart sank. I hadn't expected him to show up like this. He looked different, his eyes were tired, his shoulders slumped, as if the weight of the world was pressing down on him. For a moment, I almost felt pity for him. But then I remembered everything that had happened. I wasn't going to let him off the hook so easily. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice flat. I just want to make things right," he said, his voice cracking. "I know I've messed up. I know I've hurt you. I didn't appreciate you, and I'm sorry for that. But please, don't shut me out. I'm your son, and I'm asking for a chance to make up for everything." I looked at him, studying his face. I wanted to believe him, I really did. But I couldn't ignore the feeling that something was off. The apology felt rehearsed, too easy. And then I noticed the bag he was holding. "What's that?" I asked. He looked down at the bag, then back at me. It's a gift," he said, almost sheepishly. "I wanted to bring you something. Something to show that I'm serious." He handed me the bag, and I opened it slowly. Inside was a small, antique box. The kind of thing you'd find at a flea market, nothing valuable, but it had an old-world charm to it. I looked up at him, unsure of what to say. "It's just a gesture," he said, his voice softer now. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just want you to know that I'm trying. I know I've been a terrible son, but I'm willing to change." I stared at the box for a moment, then back at him. I could feel my resolve weakening. Could this really be an apology? Or was this just another ploy to get something from me? I wasn't sure, but there was one thing I did know. I wasn't going to let my son back into my life just because he showed up with a gift. "Thank you," I said, my voice cool. "But this isn't enough. Words and gifts don't erase 13 years of neglect. You don't get to decide when I forgive you. That's something you'll have to earn." His face fell, and for a moment, I saw the frustration rise in his eyes. But then he took a deep breath, as if trying to control his emotions. "I understand," he said quietly. "I'll prove it to you. I won't give up. I'll keep trying until you see that I'm serious." I nodded, feeling the weight of the decision I had just made. I wasn't ready to forgive him, not yet. But something in his voice told me that he wasn't going to let this go. Maybe he was finally starting to realize the consequences of his actions. Maybe this time, he was ready to change. I closed the door behind him, my heart heavy with the uncertainty of it all. As I walked back to the living room, I looked down at the box in my hands. What had I gotten myself into? Was I really prepared to open my heart to someone who had hurt me so deeply? Just as I set the box down on the table, the phone rang. I picked it up, expecting a call from a friend, but it was my son again. He didn't say anything at first, just heavy breathing on the other end of the line. Dad, it's about the money, he finally said. My pulse quickened. What about it? I need your help. I've made some bad decisions, and I'm in debt. I don't know where else to turn, he said, his voice shaky. For the first time, I heard fear in his voice. This was real. But how far was I willing to go? Would I help him now? Or was it too late to fix what had been broken? I sat in stunned silence, the phone pressed against my ear as my son's words sank in. I'm in debt, he had said, his voice cracking with fear. I don't know where else to turn. The words echoed in my mind. Debt. The very thing he had never cared about before, the thing I had always warned him about. I had spent so many years working for him, giving everything I had to make sure he was comfortable, but where was he now? Asking for my help, after all these years of treating me like I didn't matter. I felt a strange mix of anger and sorrow rise within me. For so long, I had tried to do right by him, but he had never truly appreciated it. Now, when it seemed like he needed me the most, I was being asked to help him out of a mess he had gotten himself into. I didn't know if I could do it. But I couldn't just leave him stranded. Could I? Dad. His voice broke through my thoughts. Please, I need your help. If you could just lend me some money, I can get back on my feet. I promise I'll pay you back. I'll work it off, I swear. I closed my eyes, trying to think clearly. His words sounded so desperate, and part of me wanted to help. He was my son, after all. But the other part of me, the part that had been hurt and ignored for years, felt the sting of betrayal. Why should I help him now? Why should I believe that this time would be any different? I don't know if I can help you, I said slowly, my voice steady but filled with uncertainty. You've never asked for my help before, and now, just because I have money, you expect me to fix everything. I know, Dad, he said, sounding ashamed. I know I've been a terrible son, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm asking you, not just as your son, but as someone who's learned his lesson. Please. I don't have anyone else to turn to. I didn't know what to say. For so many years, I had been the one who took care of everyone. I had been the silent servant in his house, doing everything he asked, and now, here he was, admitting that he had made mistakes. Could I turn my back on him? I took a deep breath. I need time to think about this. I can't make any decisions right now. Of course, Dad. I understand, he said quickly, relief washing over his voice. Thank you for listening. I'll wait for you to decide. We hung up, but I didn't feel any better. I had been so sure of my decision before. I had sworn I wouldn't let him back into my life just because of the money. But now, I was torn. Was I being too hard on him? Was this the right time to forgive him? I looked at the small antique box that he had given me. The apology gift. The gesture felt so small compared to everything that had happened. But still, there was something about it that kept pulling me in. It was a symbol, a sign that he was trying to make amends, even if it wasn't enough. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. The world felt so big, so overwhelming, and yet here I was, stuck in the same cycle with my son, unable to break free. I had worked so hard to get to where I was, to earn the life I had always wanted, and now I was being asked to share it. But I couldn't ignore the one thing that had changed everything. The one thing that made me rethink everything, my winnings. The $12 million. I had it now, and it was mine to decide what to do with. But was it enough to make up for the years of pain and neglect? As I stood there, deep in thought, my son called again. This time, he didn't ask for money. He didn't beg. Instead, his voice was calm, almost too calm. I've been thinking, Dad, he said. And I know I've made mistakes. But I want to make it up to you. I want to work for you, to do whatever it takes to show you I'm serious. I don't want your money. I just want a chance to make things right. His words hung in the air, and for the first time, I felt like he was being genuine. Maybe it was the desperation in his voice that finally got to me, or maybe it was the realization that he was willing to put in the work. But something inside me shifted. Could I really turn him away now? All right, I said, my voice firm but not unkind. I'll give you a chance. But it's not about money. It's about you proving to me that you can change, that you can be the man I always hoped you would be. If you can do that, then maybe we can start over. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, finally, he spoke. Thank you, Dad. Thank you so much. I won't let you down, I promise. We ended the call, and I sat back down, feeling a strange mix of relief and uncertainty. I had made my decision, but deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end. There was more to come, more tests to face, and I wasn't sure I was ready for what was coming next. As I stared at the phone, a thought crossed my mind: was I being foolish? Was I making a mistake by opening myself up to him again? Only time would tell. And just as I thought I had made peace with my decision, the phone rang again. This time, it wasn't my son. It was someone else. I stared at the phone, unsure whether I wanted to answer. My son had already called twice today, and I had agreed to give him a chance to prove himself. But this call wasn't from him. It was from a number I didn't recognize. I hesitated for a moment before picking up. Hello. A calm but unfamiliar voice came through the receiver. Is this Mr. Harrison? Yes, it is, I replied cautiously. My name is Mark Davis. I'm an attorney. I'm calling regarding your recent lottery winnings. I felt my heart drop. The sound of my son's name had barely left my lips, and now, this. What about it? I asked, my voice tight with suspicion. I need you to come down to our office immediately, the attorney continued. There's been some legal issues surrounding the ticket you won. It seems there's been a claim made that the winning ticket was stolen from someone else. We need to resolve this matter quickly. I could feel the blood draining from my face. Stolen? How could that be? I hadn't stolen anything. The ticket had been mine, purchased by me with my own money. I felt a wave of panic rise in my chest. My entire world was suddenly at risk. I don't understand, I said, trying to steady my voice. The ticket's mine. I won it fair and square. I understand, Mr. Harrison, the attorney said, but there's a situation we need to address. Please come down as soon as possible. I hung up, the weight of his words sinking in like a stone in my stomach. I didn't know what to think. Was someone trying to scam me? Was there really a chance my winnings could be taken from me? I looked out the window, my thoughts swirling. I had fought so hard to get to this point in my life. I had sacrificed everything for my son. And now, just when I thought I could finally take control of my own future, it seemed like everything was unraveling. Before I could gather my thoughts, the doorbell rang. I walked over to open it, and there stood my son, looking at me with wide eyes. He wasn't the same confident man I had seen just a few hours ago. He looked almost scared. Dad, he said quietly, his voice shaking. I don't know what's happening. I didn't know about this claim. I swear, I didn't do anything. I haven't even been in contact with anyone about your money. I couldn't look at him. Not now. Not when everything was falling apart. The money, the life I had dreamed of, it all seemed so distant now. I could see the worry in his eyes, but I couldn't tell if it was genuine or if he was just trying to cover up something. I had given him a chance, and yet, the storm of betrayal seemed to follow me no matter where I went. I need to go to the attorney's office, I said, my voice flat. I need to sort this out. I'll come with you, he offered quickly. Whatever it takes, I'll help. I didn't say anything as I turned to grab my coat. I didn't know if I trusted him anymore. I didn't know if I could ever trust him again. But for the first time in years, he was offering to help. Maybe he wasn't the man I wanted him to be, but maybe, just maybe, he could prove himself. We got into my car, and the drive to the attorney's office was quiet. The tension in the air was thick, and I could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on me. I had spent my life trying to make sure my son was happy, trying to make sure he had everything he needed. But now, he was a part of my mess. And I wasn't sure how to fix it. When we arrived at the office, the attorney was waiting for us. He ushered us inside, and we sat down at a cold, sterile conference table. I could feel my son's nervous energy beside me, but I remained calm, determined not to let the fear show on my face. Mr. Harrison, the attorney said, addressing me. This is a serious matter. It seems there is a woman named Clara Peters who is claiming that the winning ticket you have was stolen from her. She's already filed a legal complaint, and we're currently looking into the matter. Clara Peters. The name felt like a punch to the gut. I didn't know anyone by that name. I had no idea who she was. But it didn't matter, someone had come after me, and my life was about to change forever. I looked over at my son. His face was pale, and I could see that he was nervous. But was he guilty? Was this all some twisted plan to take my money from me? I couldn't tell. The attorney continued, "We'll be working to clear your name, but you should be prepared for some delays. There's no guarantee that this will be resolved quickly." I sat back in my chair, my mind racing. Everything I had worked for, everything I had dreamed of, was on the line. And all I could do was sit there, helpless. But then, my son spoke up, his voice steady. "Dad, I know this is bad. I know this isn't what we expected, but I'll stick with you through this. Whatever happens, I won't leave you alone." I looked at him, my eyes narrowing. For the first time, I saw sincerity in his face. The desperation, the apology, the regret, they all seemed real. Maybe, just maybe, he was finally trying to be the son I had always hoped for. And in that moment, I realized something. It wasn't just about the money. It wasn't about who was right or wrong. It was about the fact that, for the first time in years, my son was standing by me, offering to face whatever came next, together. It was a small step, but maybe it was the beginning of something bigger. Maybe this time, we could rebuild what had been broken. For the first time in a long while, I allowed myself to believe that things could be different. That we could both change. And that, perhaps, was the greatest victory of all.